Hey, what's going on, guys? We are going to be breaking down Applied Energistics 2 into what should be a 4-part series in which we'll uncover all of the awesome that this mod has to offer. In this episode, we'll be going over the very basics of AE2 and everything you'll need to know to get started. In the episodes to follow, we'll be discussing more advanced ME networks, cross-mod interfacing, subnetting, autocrafting, molecular assemblers, P2P tunnels, quantum link chambers, and so much more. If you're interested in building a vast AE2 network, like the one you see behind me, but aren't sure how, you came to the right place. Get on the edge of your seat and get poised because this is Applied Energistics 2, brought to you by...
All right, so let's start out by talking about the different world generation that's added and used by Applied Energistics 2. You have your regular nether quartz ore, which is added by vanilla Minecraft. That's going to be important for a lot of the recipes in AE2. But then you also have these two other types of quartz, which is Certus quartz ore and the significantly more rare version of that called charged Certus quartz ore. You need to find your very first piece of charged Certus quartz ore in order to get going with AE2, but luckily from there, once you have regular Certus quartz, you can actually make charged versions of that. So that gets a little bit easier. The next thing you're going to notice in the world are these things that are actually meteorites. And there's different ways to find them. Sometimes you'll find them a huge crater in the earth. And sometimes you'll actually find them buried inside the earth itself. And they're made of this stuff called skystone. Within that meteor, you'll find a skystone chest that's actually going to contain a random number of any one of 4 of the different inscriber patterns that we're going to need when we try and print processors and silicone chips and all that sort of stuff for the more advanced AE2 recipes.
All right, now with AE2, you can make 2 different types of wrenches. One is a nether quartz wrench, and one is a Certus quartz wrench. They do the same thing, and they can be made by placing 5 of either type of those ores inside a shapeless crafting grid just like this, and the wrenches are going to be used to interface with a lot of the different machines, items, and multi-parts in AE2 later on.
AE2 is also going to add this thing called a Quartz Grindstone, which is actually powered by a regular wooden crank, very easy to make. And it's a great way to start with some ore duplication early on. You just put in any of the crystals used by Applied Energistics 2 and even regular ore, and you can grind it down into its dust forms, which some of those dusts are used directly by AE2 recipes, and others can be put into something like a smeltery or any such thing that will actually then convert it back. Thankfully, there is a way to have your computer automatically click this for you. You will have to stay in one spot, but using accessibility shortcuts, you can have your keyboard actually click your mouse for you.
All right, now as soon as you find your first charged Certus quartz, probably the best thing that you're going to want to do with it is change it into a Fluix Crystal, because the Fluix Crystal is going to be used in the pattern for the charger, which will basically enable you to get as many charged Certus quartz as you want. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to throw a piece of redstone, some nether quartz, and charged Certus quartz inside a little bit of water. You're going to get a nice little animation there, and it's going to make you 2 Fluix Crystals.
The very first thing you're going to want to do with those 2 shiny new Fluix Crystals that you just made is to craft this thing called a charger. And the reason for that is because this glorious little machine will actually take a regular Certus quartz crystal and turn it into a charged Certus quartz crystal. Those charged Certus quartz crystals are exceedingly rare. We ran a 40 by 40 by 64 quarry. That's 102,000 blocks and change, and only found 16 charged Certus quartz ore. That is a ratio of 1 to 6,400 blocks. That sucks. This thing can be powered with a regular wooden crank, or as we'll show you later, you can actually tie it into your AE network and have it automatically create these charged Certus quartz crystals for you. Pretty dope. The charger also has the ability to charge any of your various AE2 tools like your ME access card and the matter cannon. AE2 is also going to allow you to fulfill your inner desire to become Walter White by growing your own pure version of each of the different crystal types. You can make a pure Fluix, pure nether quartz, and pure Certus quartz crystal. And to do that, all you do is grind each of the original crystals or quartz ores into its dust form and combine that with a piece of sand. That will actually net you 2 of the seeds. So you're going to actually double, which is awesome because these pure versions can actually be used in a bunch of different recipes. That will create a little tiny seed. There's actually 3 different phases before you get to the final purified crystal form. And each of those little seeds is simply dropped in a piece of water, in a puddle of water. These seeds will not despawn, which is a good thing because without any sort of crystal growth, acceleration, these puppies take a long time, like hours and hours. In our test pack here that we're playing with, it took over 8 hours with no acceleration to go from the small seed all the way up to the final purified version.
Alright, so in order to accelerate the seed growing process, what we are going to need to make are crystal growth accelerators. But before we can do that, we're going to need some kind of power in our AE2 system. So go ahead and craft an energy acceptor, and this will accept power from either Industrial Craft 2, Thermal Expansion. It will accept MJRF or EU from any of these. As you can see here, it interfaces well with all the different mods. And this will get power into your network, which we'll talk about networks a little later on, but this is going to be important to power up these accelerators, so we are going to talk about them now. AE2 also provides its own power generation block, and it's called a vibration chamber. This will generate 10 EU per tick, and it will use any kind of combustible fuel, just like a normal furnace. Also, while we're here, we'll talk about the energy cell. The energy cell can store a certain amount of power in your AE network, and there is also a dense energy cell which can store significantly more power.
Once you have a steady supply of power, go ahead and create these things called the crystal growth accelerators. And these are actually made using Fluix blocks, which is crafted with just 4 of the regular Fluix crystals or 8 of the pure Fluix crystals, which kind of sucks. But these will dramatically cut down the amount of time that it takes to mature or to grow the seeds to their mature pure crystal form. And you can technically have up to 6 of them. Although when we did that, they kept disappearing from inside this pool of water. If you add about 5 growth accelerators, you can cut your time down from 8 hours to roughly a minute. And again, for some reason that seems to depend on the mod pack. So you should be able to expect roughly 1 minute of growth time with 5 of these growth accelerators. They do, however, constantly drain AE from your system, so you're going to want to be able to turn them on and off. And the easiest way to do that is to craft either a toggle bus or an inverted toggle bus, which allow you to cut and restore power on demand to each of these growth accelerators.
Alright, next we're going to talk about processors and presses, and in order to make these things, you are going to need to find those meteorites that we talked about in the first part of the ore generation part of the video. So, you're going to need to craft this meteorite compass, and the meteorite compass is going to point you in the direction of a meteorite. Alright, so as soon as you find a chunk that a meteorite is located in, the compass will start spinning rapidly just like this. So if you go outside the boundary and the meteorite is not found within this chunk, it won't spin. If it is found within the chunk or multiple chunks, which it can surpass chunk boundaries, it will start spinning rapidly like this. Meteorites can generally be found underground, but occasionally they can be found above ground too. And if you find them above ground, you'll see a lot of devastation around where they have landed. But this is what they look like. We've kind of shaved off the top a little bit here, but what you're after is actually inside the center of these meteorites. And this is the Skystone chest. Inside this chest, this is where you are going to find the different types of presses. There could be anywhere from 1 to probably all 4 presses, plus a few miscellaneous items inside of here. So before you can move on with AE2, you are going to need these presses because you're going to need them to make these circuits that we're about to talk about.
Each of the 4 inscriber patterns that you've found hidden inside of the Skystone chest will actually be used in a machine called an inscriber, and they are used to make each of the different pieces of the different AE2 processor types. Combining an engineering press with a diamond will make you a printed engineering circuit. Combining the calculation press with a pure Certus quartz will make a printed calculation circuit. And combining the logic press with a piece of gold will make the printed logic circuit. Combining a piece of silicon with its press will make a piece of printed silicon, which is then combined with each of the different types of printed circuits and a piece of redstone to make the final output, which is the actual AE2 processor. Each inscriber needs to be powered either by connecting it directly to the AE network or by supplying power from another mod like the Ender.io energy conduits. There are, of course, ways to completely automate the whole process, but we'll leave that for another video. Where AE2 is first going to shine like a light in the darkness of your little caveman world is when you start to do stuff like storing your items. AE2 adds 4 different storage cell types that allow you to store a whole slew of items. With the 1K storage cell, you can store up to 127 stacks of one item or 65 stacks of 63 different types of items. When you get all the way up to the 64K cell, you can store 8,128 stacks of items in a single cell, or 4,160 stacks of 63 different types of items. Now you may be thinking to yourself, there's better ways like Java barrels or DSUs to store a single item type. And you may be right, but I challenge you to find an easier way to look through your items, to sort them by mod name, to sort them by quantity available, to use them to craft, to use them to auto craft, and even to use them to easily interface with tons of other mods. When you're first starting out, depending on your comfort level with the mod and how many inscriber patterns you've already found, you might find yourself wanting to use this thing called an ME chest. The ME chest is a very easy way to store and access your items when you're just starting out. It holds one drive at a time. However, if you've already followed any of our Ender Quarry, Quarry Plus, regular Buildcraft Quarry, or Remote Quarry tutorial videos, you'll find that you soon run out of space with this massive influx of items that's coming in from all your quarries. That's where the ME chest starts to run out of usefulness, and this thing called the ME drive comes along. Each ME drive is capable of storing 10 cells. For those of you who are doing the math, that would be 41,600 different stacks of over 630 types of items. All searchable, all easily and almost instantaneously accessible.
All right, so that's going to wrap up episode 1 of our AE2 tutorial series. In episode 2, we are going to be talking about more advanced networks. We're going to be talking about channels and what they are. We are going to be tackling all the different types of cabling and pipes and so on and so forth, import buses, export buses, auto ore processing, how to handle all that stuff that's coming in from your quarries to automatically process it and throw it into your system. And it is going to be fantastic.
Oh, the things!
All right, so we can pause it there, and then we can finish it off with something. What do we want to finish it off with?
I thought that was the finish.